Welcome to Zeitgeist Radio. I'm your host, Morgan Rowe, founder of the Zeitgeist Academy. Zeitgeist means spirit of the times, and it is the collection of cultural forces that all contribute to what it feels like to be alive and part of a dynamic culture. Every episode, I speak with someone from a unique musical subculture. We dig into their passion and explore how music is a powerful force that brings people together. My guest today is Jill Gibson, a music teacher and musical improv coach from San Luis Obispo, California. Jill, welcome to Zeitgeist Radio.
Thank you.
I'm very excited to talk with you. You do a very specific thing, or at least I know you in this context of this very specific musical thing that we both do. But can you share a little bit about yourself with people? Because you have a background in music, too.
Yes. So, well, we're going to talk about musical improv today, but I have kind of an extensive, I guess, background in music.
Yeah.
Like my earliest memory is doing a Mommy and Me music class
Same.
at 4 years old. Yeah.
Yep.
It's all like percussion instruments.
Yep.
And the rest is history. Yeah. You want it from back there?
Oh, I'm just some basic background. Like you do have a music background yourself.
I do. Yes.
And you have a degree as well? Is that
I have
true?
a degree in music because that was a good idea.
I feel like we might be the same person.
This is just me unloading my personal problem. Which I do a lot at musical improv shows anyways. I have my degree in music. I spent the first part of my music degree like doing jazz music, actually.
Nice.
And playing like jazz improvisation.
Yeah.
I played saxophone a lot in jazz bands and big bands and stuff. And then halfway through college, I saw some production of Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this looks fun. And before then, I really liked the idea of singing and acting, but I was inspired to change from doing jazz to singing focus in music.
Wow, okay.
I already had so many credits in music. I was like, better finish it out.
Yeah.
It took a long time, but like I finished out my music degree with a focus in voice. And so did choirs and classical singing and musical theater singing, which I really loved.
Yes.
And acting stuff, like acting classes on the side. And then kind of at the end of college, I found out what improv was. And I was like, what is this? It's fun. I had seen Whose Line Is It anyway.
Yeah.
Thought it was fun. Did a little class in college for like an improv class. And then after college, I found the local improv group here and joined up with them and like have been doing improv ever since. And I don't remember how long or like how far into improv I learned how to like do musical improv.
Yeah.
But Sabrina, who owns the Central Coast Comedy Theater, was doing a musical improv class. And I was like, hey, well, I love music. I've been doing music forever. I like singing. And so what is this? And so basically just started doing musical improv too.
So it started in a class. So you took the class and now you're leading the class.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And here we are. So yeah. And I'm never like, I'm not like the expert. I guess I would just, this is the disclaimer.
Okay.
I'm not the expert on musical improv. And like, I'm trying to like practice more and get better at it. But yeah, it's fun.
So for someone who's never heard of musical improv, how would you describe it?
Musical improv is making up a song on the spot. With sometimes you get a suggestion and then you just make it up from there.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. And there's what's been interesting. So I've joined this group as the like accompanist.
We did recruit
piano
you.
player. Yeah. So from my perspective, and I know you play piano too. So
not as good as you.
You understand well, but it's like this back and forth. So like if you're singing, you make up a song on the spot, but then I also like we're kind of making it up together.
Yes.
And there's this like guessing of like what kind of genre are we making?
Yes.
in like a split second and
Right.
feeding off of things. So it's been super interesting to be like, okay, well, I'm definitely, because I'm making it up too most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. No, I
yeah.
think what you do is a lot harder actually because you have to know what chords you're playing or, just to figure it out on the spot. Like, oh, okay, I'm just playing underscoring this scene and then repeating a structure and all these things and then also playing it in a pattern. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel like the hardest part for me is the genre. Like
Yeah.
as like figuring out what,
Yeah.
because you could turn almost any scene into almost any genre. So it's like
That's true.
feeling into like maybe it's this sweet scene, but you know what? I'm feeling like a punk vibe coming on.
Right. And it's like, how do you play? I mean, I don't know, but you probably know how to play a punk vibe thing on a piano by yourself. Like, that's crazy to
I
me.
am definitely learning. I am we were I was recruited by our friend Tanya, and I was very much, she can tell you I had several mini almost meltdowns
No,
before I actually agreed to show up to class.
you're awesome. You're doing so
I
well.
was like, oh, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. She's like, nobody knows what they're doing.
They're amazing. Like, I've talked to some amazing piano players and they just like refuse to do improv. And they're amazing at
really
piano. I'm
scary.
like, "Oh, you could do this." It is scary. It's like you're just making it up. It's so vulnerable. I think musical improv is super vulnerable because you're stepping out there without a script and without a song or a sheet music and you're just doing it. It's
Yes.
almost a lot of improvisers don't want to do musical improv because you're singing and people get really scared about their singing voice.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I was. So
And you majored in voice.
I did. I don't
And you
know.
teach voice.
I teach voice now, but I don't know if I've told you this story, but like I've always loved singing.
Yeah.
But when I was, I think like 12 or 13 in middle school, I tried out for choir and I had to, because of the way the scheduling worked in middle school, and I was also in band, of course, I had to be in like if I wanted to do choir, I had to be in the advanced choir.
Uh-huh.
So I auditioned for that and I had never done choir before, so I didn't make it in. And it was such like, I don't even really remember, but it was probably one of those auditions where it's like, repeat after me, la, la, la. And then you repeat that or something. I don't know. I was just nervous. So I didn't make it in.
Yeah.
And then I just decided I wasn't a good singer for like 10 years after that. I didn't like try again for a while.
Right.
And when I first got a voice teacher in college, I learned that singing is like an instrument, just how you can play like piano and whatever else, saxophone, flute, whatever. But you can't see what's going on when you're singing. It's all internal.
You have to feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to feel it. So I kind of gained confidence the more I learned like how to sing and how to breathe and stuff like that. This is turning into a singing podcast.
No, that's fine. I fully agree, and I know you teach and I teach too, and especially adults when they come in, they often have a lot of like kind of anxiety around singing, and so every single first lesson for me is the same, where I ask them like, do you know how the voice works? Like, tell me everything you know about how the voice works, and they'll kind of like tell me a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, and start piecing in the gaps. And talking about the whole system top to bottom. And that can take like 40 minutes. We often I make sure we sing a little bit on that first lesson. But I want them to see like this is a complex system and there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it's, of course you're anxious.
Yeah.
Like to control all of this and not be able to see it. And just like it's a very intense like internal. Yeah, I feel very passionate about adults learning how to sing.
No, it's
for this exact reason.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like I pull out some diagrams too. I'm like, this is what your did I say diagram? Yeah, because I was gonna say diaphragm. And that rhymes with diagram. That's already we're doing musical improv. Okay, no.
Oh man, throw that into the next
diaphragm is your diagram for your diaphragm. Okay. So yeah, I have diagrams of diaphragms for the body parts. God,
I love that.
and
It's so helpful though, and I
It
think
is.
that's part of something that's been really fun. I bring it back to musical improv.
Yeah.
Something that's been really fun is the people, at least the people who are currently in the group I've been working with so far, they don't necessarily have that training.
No,
And so
yeah.
they're learning,
Yeah.
like, it's intense. Like, again, I know you said that my job's the hardest, but, like, I think that, like, what some of these people, like, I have such mad respect for some of these people who are doing this because they, like, some of them have either never sung or
Mhm.
rarely sing. They can all hold a tune,
Mm-hmm.
but like to just jump in like that with this system that they
Yeah.
don't always like understand the whole, like, it's complicated and they
Right.
don't understand how it all works, but they're willing to give it a go and
Right.
jump in. I just feel like these are some of the bravest people I've ever met.
Yeah, it's cool. It's the willingness, I think, to put yourself out there and just make all of the mistakes or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, publicly, because
Yeah.
the first performance was within what, like 3 weeks?
Yeah, yeah.
Three
Yeah, it was
rehearsals?
pretty quick. Well, we're doing improv, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, but we do practice like the games, as you know, and some of the structures of the song. There is like a structure
Yeah.
for some improvised songs that we
Yeah.
use. So
Let's talk about some of those, because I think
Yeah.
I didn't realize that games like that, not
Mhm.
coming from a background of improv at all.
Mhm.
I wasn't familiar with some of these terms. So,
Mhm.
like, the games. Let's talk about some of these games. Can you tell people about some of them?
Yes. So for musical improv, some of the more common games are like Hoedown and Irish Drinking Song, and those two games are played a lot on Whose Line Is It Anyway? So they were like televised. A lot of people have seen them.
It's really funny because so those two have like actual chords. Like,
Yeah.
for example, Hoedown. There's a very specific chords, and because it's from that show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? People know like there's also kind of a melody, like a riff part that
Yes.
people expect to hear.
Yeah.
So I had to look that one up rather than just playing, because I'm like, okay, I have to actually learn a song for this one.
Right.
And it was really funny because it was like something 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 else.
Mhm.
Like, just looking at the words, it's just like something 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 something
Right.
chorus.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, well, that's like the structure of the game, though, is like just the words change each time, but the melody and the chords are the same.
Are the same.
Yeah, and the rhyming scheme is I guess the point of the game is to like make sure you hit your rhymes.
Yeah.
That one is fun. Irish Drinking Song is like harder because you have to rhyme with other people. Like, you throw out a rhyming word and they have to like pay off the rhyme that you came up with.
Yeah.
So
Which is insane. So they have, I mean, that sounds like hard just without music.
You have to, yeah, there's some with all improv, I think, but especially musical improv, you have to be kind of in a group mind to be able to do it.
Yes.
Or listen really well, at least. Other musical improv games, there's the Do-Ron, which is based on the old 50s song, the Do-Ron. And that one is a rhyming elimination game. So if you like mess up your rhyme, then you get called out by the host.
Yeah.
And the audience screams at you. It's really fun. Yeah, that one is fun. Lots of like the rhyming and rapping games, like the Beastie Rap, which is fun.
I think that's the first one I ever saw.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Beastie Rap. Can you describe that?
Okay, so I'll try it. So the BC Rap is where you have 2 teams of 4, and you have one person step out, and the 3 other people are behind you. So there are 2 teams like that, and the person in front like sets it up like, I went outside and saw and then the people behind you would say like tree, like you're the Beastie Boys, because that's how the Beastie Boys like yell the rhyme.
Yeah.
And then the other group would have to be like, the person in front would be like, and then on a flower I saw, and the people in the back would be like bee. I like made those rhymes really obvious, like I was setting up tree and bee.
Right.
And then you go back and forth, like rhyming tree, bee, he, I don't know, etc.
Until you can't.
Until you can't, and it's also kind of an elimination game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of competitive. It's a little bit competitive. It's mostly for fun.
Of course.
But yeah, that one is a fun one because you just really get into it and you're like trying to be the Beastie Boys.
Yes. No, that is fun. And it's fun to listen to, like, because again, the first time I ever saw it, I was in the audience
Mhm.
and I knew immediately, like, oh yeah, that's totally the Beastie
Right?
Boys. That's
Well,
how they are. Yeah.
Some people don't know, and I'm not just saying like younger people don't know the Beastie Boys. I'm saying some of our like older people don't know the Beastie Boys.
Well, it's very, if you know the Beastie Boys at all, it's very obvious that this is what it's.
Yeah, it's obvious like,
like,
that's
oh.
what the game is like trying to be like. But yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah.
then kind of just while we're talking about rhymes,
Mhm.
the other two that I think, I don't remember which one was played in that first show, but
Mhm.
since then we do that a lot of times as a warm up. But there's
Mhm.
both good rap and bad rap.
Oh yeah. Bad rap. Bad rap is a game where it's kind of more of an exercise where it's similar to the Beastie Rap because it's about setting up and paying off. So you may like people may have heard in comedy you have a setup and a payoff. Like stand-ups do that all the time. And in terms of rhyming, you have your setup rhyme and your payoff rhyme. So like going back to when I said tree and bee, um B is the payoff rhyme because that was the second thing I said, and
Right.
tree would be my setup.
Right.
I'm like setting up to rhyme with that
Right.
word. Bad rap is intentionally not rhyming with your setup word. So like, I don't remember what I said before, but if I said, I went outside and saw a tree and on a flower there was an insect instead of saying bee.
Right.
And we go bad rap, bad rap, bad rap. So that one is really fun because it like works your brain into like thinking of that payoff word, but intentionally not saying it.
Right.
It can be hard. If you do
And
say
you can
B,
pass it.
you can, yeah, you pass it to someone
Yeah.
else. So like
So like I would
Yeah.
say tree,
Mhm.
and then you would have to not say
B,
B.
I would have to say
which
insect.
is hard, actually, turns
It's
out.
so
Like
hard.
your brain wants to go to that rhyme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then if I accidentally said B, it would be a good rap. And
It
we
would be
say
a good
good rap, good rap, good rap. Yeah.
That's what I've loved about improv is like there's virtually no consequences to anything. Like
Yeah.
like if
No,
it's a
not
bad
really.
rap, then it's a bad, or if it's a good rap, then it's a good.
Yeah, it's
Like,
exactly. There's no
and-
consequences. It's exactly. There's no consequences.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, even for the elimination games, like you're like, yeah, the audience is screaming at you, but like somehow you guys are able to like make an environment where
Mhm.
that is still fun for the performer versus
Yes.
like anyone else. If you picture being on stage and the audience starts booing you, like you would completely melt down and lose all of your self-confidence and just melt into
Yeah.
a puddle.
You have to make everything, I think, like a bit when you're doing an
Yeah.
improv show. Or like, yeah, you kind of have to just keep the energy up.
Yeah.
Because the audience will like, I don't know. I've never been booed though. I didn't have shows that happen.
Oh no, just like if they like scream at you because you like did the wrong one, like they noticed that
Oh,
you messed up,
yeah.
right? You made a mistake on stage, like
Mhm.
in front of
Mhm,
everybody, and they're vocal about noticing that.
I mean,
that's
who?
more what I
But
meant.
who would go to a piano recital and like start booing at the
I
person
know.
who made a mistake? That would be insane.
I know, but
Does that happen?
Yeah. Well, I hope not. None of mine. I would probably punch somebody if they did
Yeah,
that.
that's rude.
But I have seen students make a mistake and be really hard on themselves.
Oh, yeah?
And like want to quit because they were like
Mhm.
so like embarrassed about making a mistake. And I have not seen that at all in any of the improv stuff that I've been on.
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It does feel like in the more traditional music world and stuff, it feels more higher stakes or serious or
Mhm.
something, which I mean, not that it's not a musical improv, it's still kind of like that you could make the stakes high, but it does seem like people are a lot harder on themselves like learning traditional music or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple more games just because I think they're
Okay.
really fun. Can you describe Hey Bartender?
Oh, yeah, singing bartender.
Singing
Yeah,
bartender.
so I only like calling it Hey Bartender because everyone opens the thing with
Yeah.
Hey Bartender. So, okay, this is how when I host this game, this is how I describe it for the audience. So I say, hey audience, so we're going to play a game called Singing Bartender. And just like in real life, you go to the bartender with your problems because therapy is too expensive. So you go to the bartender
the
and
bar.
ask for advice.
So true.
Yeah. I believe in therapy though. So
Yes.
okay, so but anyway, that's how I like set up the game, and I get suggestions of problems from the audience members so that the players can sing their problems at the bartender, and then the bartender gives them advice. And usually, how this game is played is the problems are really not problems; they're like first world problems or just really pet peeves, something super small, like I lost my sock in the dryer. And then they go in the bar and sing their problem at the bartender. And the bartender, I like to tell the bartenders to give it bad advice because it's funnier.
Yeah.
I think that's like the structure of the game, and you also sing it over a blues, like a 12-bar blues, because you always sing like your problems to blues. So
Right.
that's kind of like the setup of that game. It's really fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really like that one. A, because I like playing the 12-bar blues. And then B, it's so funny. The stuff that people come up with, it's amazing. Like literally
Mhm.
these ideas are just like shouted out.
Yeah.
And then the players they get all into it. They get all into their like it is the work, like their day is falling apart
Right.
because they lost their sock in the dryer or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah. Like they play the emotional stakes of like something else maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
really
funny.
like that one.
That
Yeah.
one's a good one.
Yeah. So it seems like, and again, I'm new to this whole thing. It seems like we gig a lot compared to like in a lot of the traditional music world that I'm used to, including when I've taught before, like you have a recital twice a year.
Mhm.
And that's when you perform.
Mhm.
You practice and practice, you work up a set, you maybe a couple songs, and then you perform a
Yeah.
couple times a year.
Yeah.
But I've only been with this group for 3 months. I'm not sure when we started. And we've already performed 3 times.
Yeah. Almost 4.
Almost 4. Yeah, we have one coming up here. So, like, is that normal within improv or is that on purpose? Can you talk to that?
Yeah. So with improv, and I think like because we're like a smaller town here, we're really lucky that we get so much stage time. In bigger cities like LA or Chicago, you have to, as a student, in a class, what I hear is you kind of have to really work your way up to get more stage time. But we're so lucky here to be able to perform like pretty consistently. And I do think that performing more often is like also part of the practice,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Totally.
Because and I see it a little bit in our ensemble sometimes as like we are doing something sometimes in rehearsal and then it just kind of is different in front of an audience.
Mm.
So the more you can get in front of an audience and do improv, the better you'll be, or like just the more rounded a performer you become, because most of the work you do practice like the structure of games and the structure of a song and all these things, and practice rhyming and practice coming up with ideas for songs or whatever. But like being at a show and feeding like off the audience is part of an improv show.
Mhm.
I think like Sabrina could really speak to that.
Mm.
But yeah, definitely it's more normal for improv to like perform more often for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I totally agree. And I think
Mhm.
that it, terrifying and also important
Yeah.
to be performing.
Yeah.
And also, I think, again, the audiences that come to improv shows, like, it seems like a lot of people have either done it before or have family members who have, like, they're familiar with the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Versus someone like me who had never seen anything. I just
Mhm.
happened to be friends with someone,
Mhm.
and then I went and it was really fun. But it's, yeah, I think that the audiences also kind of expect a level of messiness. Like we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier, like,
You-
I mean, yeah, they'll scream at you, but it's like
Yeah.
they kind of get it too.
They don't go to the improv show going like, I'm going to watch an aria
Right.
and I'm gonna watch the best mezzo soprano in the world. Like no one's
Right.
expecting that.
Right.
No one wants that. It's usually at like places where alcohol is served. So like you don't go to the comedy show, yeah, expecting like the best thing or whatever. Not that we're not good, because I think we are, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
super practiced things like you would do for a recital.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some of the games that that we do, but there's also what you guys call scenes.
Mhm.
And this I think is where like as the accompanist, I have the most fun. So can you describe what a musical improv scene might look like?
Yes. So a scene. So we play a game kind of like sounds like song, but I'll also talk about long form too. But an improv scene is just two people acting, two people making up a theatrical scene on the spot.
Yeah.
There's like dramatic stakes usually. And usually they're silly and comedic and things like that. And at some point, like in the sounds like a song game, somebody hears a line that might be funny, or maybe it's the climax of the scene and they say, sounds like a song. Like, I can't believe you left mom. Like, I would say I want to hear a song about that kind of thing. Like, that would be the hook or something, or the theme of the song. And then the two players would go into a song. So that can exist like a musical long form, which you can just think about it like a musical, like an improvised Broadway musical.
Right.
Shorter than a musical, because like I've never seen people do an improvised 2 hour,
Oh my gosh.
2.5
That would be
hour.
intense.
What is the longest musical? Like 3. I mean, Harry Potter is not a musical. It's like a 2-day show.
Right.
But anyway, okay. So an improvised musical.
It's not like The Ring, like the Wagner's like Ring cycle.
Oh my God. No, it's not. What if there
13
was?
hours of
I'm gonna go on a tangent though for a second, because there are improvised like Sondheim groups in Chicago, and there's like improvised musical theater genre person like Sondheim. I bet there's
What?
yeah.
Man.
Can you imagine like that? I don't know. I love Sondheim.
I love
I
Sondheim.
did my senior project on Sondheim. I just like analyzed a bunch of his music.
It's magical. The deeper you get, you're
I
like,
know.
this is so
I
genius.
got in real deep.
Yeah.
I can't even think about anything else because I'm thinking about Sondheim.
I know.
Musical theater. Okay. So there's like improvised styles like that people do.
So it would all
And
be in the style of Sondheim, or it would be riffs off of his actual music? Or
no, I think just like a in the style of. So I probably like a lot of some patter singing probably, or like, fast singing, probably like really complicated, complex musical melodies.
like tone rows.
Yeah. Oh my God. Tone Rose. I just got a traumatic flashback
I'm
to
sorry.
my senior year
I
in
know.
college.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But he does that. I remember.
Yeah.
He was in Sweeney Todd, the
yeah.
judge, when he's reading the letter.
Yeah.
Like, and you don't even notice it. That's his genius. Is like, you're like, oh, this sounds weird, but also angsty, which is the letter. Anyway, it was a tone row.
That's cool.
The whole song is a tone row. I know. Because he's the judge. He likes order and things.
Yeah.
But also,
he's the worst.
He's the worst, and it's crunchy. And
that's amazing. I did all the female characters because I'm a mezzo soprano, so I did all the mezzo sopranos, and he did write pretty well for those. But like, I was like, so in Into the Woods, the witch sings this melody, and then this melody comes back at this point in the musical, and that's referring to the witch, and like that's. I don't know. I'm sure it was better than that. I spent so long on that paper. So this is the Stephen Sondheim musical font. Yeah, I'd be down for more Sondheim-esque things, but yeah, like, okay, going back to like a musical long form.
Yeah.
It's like a run of scenes.
Yeah.
You can do this in different ways. Like the scenes could be related to each other. But you usually do a scene into a song, scene into a song, scene into a song. So, not exactly, I guess, like a musical. Like musicals don't really follow that structure usually. You don't get that many songs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually you do scene, 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 song, scene, scene, scene,
yeah,
song.
Though I did just see 6, and it was basically that.
Oh,
scene,
really?
Song. It was just songs.
In New York?
Yeah. In LA.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know it was in
I was
LA.
there this weekend.
That's so cool.
They're traveling. It was
That's
It was
amazing.
Yes.
That's so cool.
And it was just an hour and a half. It was a 90-minute show, no
Yeah.
intermission, and just songs.
Well, I heard that is more like a concert.
It was.
actually.
I felt like I was at a pop show.
That's
it was
what people
epic.
people told me it was like going to a Spice Girls.
I felt like I was
concert.
no, it was legit, and that's what they were going for. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's amazing. My friend did just see Josh Groban as Sweeney Todd in New York recently.
Oh my gosh,
and we still need to get her opinion on it. But yeah, isn't that crazy?
It's my favorite.
Yeah, it's such a good musical.
The mission of the Zeitgeist Academy is simple. I want everyone to live their best musical life. If your dream includes singing with confidence, I got you. I made a mini online course so you can get out of musical drama and finally understand which vocal elements make you sound good. Banish forever those fears of being out of key, off rhythm, and other assorted mayhem. Step into your best musical life, my friends. Sign up for the free course at zeitgeistacademy.com/radio.
Here's
Really
what's
fun.
interesting to me when I'm doing the scene stuff.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's like someone yells, sounds like a song, and then sometimes they're just like, okay, Morgan, just figure it out when it sounds like a song. And that for me is really fun because I can kind of get a feel for like, okay, like one time they were talking about penguins, and I was like, and I start to think in my head like, okay, penguins. Well, they kind of had this weird quacky sound, and then their feet flop. So I had this like, I'm like, okay, I got this little riff, in the left hand. Okay, and then how can I make something actually singable? You know, and then I'm kind of like tuning in and listening, and then when I feel like I get to give that prompt, so that's fun for me to be able to do that, and I just kind of launch in, and then they have to make up a song.
No, that's a good point,
choose
because
that.
sometimes you as the accompanist you have to just start playing the music, and then at whatever point the actors will start singing. So you're also kind of giving your input into what the scene is
it
about
becomes
musically.
a 3-person scene kind of
totally.
almost. Like I become a player because I tell them what the genre is going to be. Like I was talking about genre before. Like maybe it's like a wah, 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 the penguin feet, but then I put like some country likes, and then all of a sudden that changes their scene where they're like, by pulling in that flavor of like a country song or a pop song or just a ballad, or like something really really rockin', like whatever it is, it adds like a third character almost.
No,
that
totally.
is the feel of the music.
Yeah.
I
mean, the composer is like part of the like Stephen Sondheim is part of the musical when he writes the music or his lyrics. But yeah, like the music is definitely suggesting what's going on in the scene as well. So it's definitely an important part, I would say. Yeah.
It's really fun. I think that's some of the hardest for me, but also some of the most fun for me. And then last week, I don't think you weren't here, but we did this version of that where they'd repeat the scene and in a different style.
Genre replay.
That was hard for me because I need to come up with riffs for like I'm like some genres I'm like, oh, I got this, and others I'm like, I don't know how to tell just with a piano how to make it sound like one versus like rock versus country versus I just need to get better. Doing that on the piano.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a really fun game. But yeah, it's hard to communicate all the different kinds of genres, just like one instrument.
Just one instrument.
Usually, like country, we think of like guitars and
like that twang. Like I can't really twang on a piano.
No. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
But that was really fun too, because then I really got to see like how much, like I knew in my head that it changed the dynamic, but like when they repeated it, I was like, okay, now I've got my little like electric piano. I'm like, okay, I'm going harpsichord here.
Yeah.
And we're doing like French,
oh my God.
like we're doing a waltz, or whatever it was. Those ones were really, really fun, and how it completely changed where the scene ended up.
Yeah. Have you played a real harpsichord? This is just a random question.
I have in college.
Really?
Yes,
Did they have one at your college?
A pain.
Are they hard to push the keys?
No. Well, they're just very different if you're used to playing piano.
Yeah.
Because there's no, piano has weighted keys.
Yeah.
So with a harpsichord, it's all or nothing. Either
does it
it
feel
makes
like
a sound or not.
More of a percussion instrument?
Does.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I've never played one before. I want to play.
They're interesting. They also go out of tune really fast.
Oh, I bet, because just like being their strings being constantly like plucked,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they sound cool, but yeah, they're weird. Anyway.
definitely. Yeah. Again, for me as the accompanist, it's fun to have an electric piano with the different sounds, where I can pull in like,
Space
church
sounds.
bells, like an organ, like
Yeah.
a church bell chime. Like again, that'll be something different, or strings, or just the pianos that nowadays can make like every song, every sound basically. And that's also fun for me to play with.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing that.
I know, that's super fun. And like as an actor, it's really fun to like hear what's going on with your music and then respond off of that.
I would love to know like what's going in your head. I kind of shared like
Yeah.
what I'm listening for, like in the scenes. Like
Yeah.
what's going through your head when you do a scene?
When I'm doing a scene, I try to be fully present with my scene partner and just listening to them like completely as if I'm living in the scene. And just responding how I think this character would respond. And then when the music comes in, I just kind of let that emotionally take over, and just play to the highest stakes, even if it is something dumb like "Where's my sock?" Um, and the music is so nice because I think it does like resonate. At least in me, I think it does with everyone though. Like music has a really, really powerful effect on everybody. Um, and that's usually when the comedy comes in too, is like you're singing like a really gorgeous ballad or something over like something so dumb like "Where is my sock?" Um so
Yeah, like
mm,
I try to keep things very, because I also don't know where you're gonna go. Right?
mhm.
Let's get meta here. I don't
Oh,
know where you're
sure.
gonna go. I have to give you enough chordal like structure that you
Mhm.
have notes. I try to play like a handful of notes in a row, even just like 3 or so in a row, up or down, so that you can
Yeah.
choose like, do you want the song to go up or do you want it to go
Oh,
down?
sure. Um, well, for me, like I can talk about this because like I have some knowledge in music. Like I know if you're playing like in a specific key, I'll just stay in that key.
Mhm.
Um, what's interesting about improvising with singing is that your voice doesn't know like which note you're gonna sing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm confusing myself. Um,
Well, but you have on the flip side though, you often have a little more time than
yeah.
if you were speaking it. Like when we
Oh yeah,
do the
sure, sure.
rap stuff, like if I add a beat,
Yeah.
or we've been doing like the word by word
Mhm.
exercises, and it's
Yeah.
just like if I add a beat, it actually tends to give people if they don't have that beat,
Mhm.
speed up,
Mhm.
or you try to talk fast. But like
Yeah.
if you're singing it, you have a little more space.
I'll say like in general terms that when I'm like singing a song, I think the best rule is to like kind of copy what normal songs are doing, which
Yeah.
is you start kind of in a lower space, whether that's volume, whether that's like your range or your pitch, literally, and you just kind of build. And with comedy, and comedy songs, I instead of like pop songs, I guess, kind of have like a rise and fall. But comedy, I think you just go up, 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 up till the very end.
Yeah.
Like you just go up a mountain. And that's how like improv scenes work too, is like you just keep building up and the stakes, you just go higher and higher and higher with the comedy. And I think so, like for singing a comedic improvised song, I would do the same thing where I would just keep building with like maybe my pitch, maybe my volume, maybe how dramatic I'm singing it.
Yeah.
Um, until like I get to the end of it. And
Well, okay, let's
yeah.
talk about that though,
Okay.
because that I think is also one of the hardest things for me. When does it end?
Mhm.
Like,
I think
how does it end?
right. It's definitely a silent, like, this is a weird way to describe it, a silent negotiation.
Yeah, it feels that way. Yeah.
Um, like in bands or whatever, when I was playing like in jazz bands, like maybe one person be like,
Right.
wow, I just did a visual for a podcast.
They'll make a big motion to
I
be
did-
like, "This is the
I
end."
did a big motion. I was like, lift up your head and then like go down. Which you can kind of work that into your scene. Or you could as the accompanist, but I mean, there's probably other ways to figure out ending. Like if you kind of set up a chorus with a repeating
Yeah.
section, you probably do that chorus like 4 times or 8 times, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Or
And that's something that I think we're working on as a
Yeah.
group right now, is getting choruses to be more chorusy.
yes,
I think people, especially, I think a lot of the people in the group have done improv before,
Mhm.
which is like you're constantly using your brain, you're constantly thinking.
yeah,
And with music, you actually have to go the opposite way, where you simplify.
yeah,
Like music is actually really simple most of the time. Like,
yeah,
what was it? Someone said like they were listening to Imagine by John Lennon and
Mhm.
realizing like it's really only so many words.
oh yeah,
And then
yeah,
the chorus that comes back over and over is just like a sentence.
Mhm.
And that's it. And yet it's a really driving song that's gone down through the ages. So
Mhm.
like that's almost challenging for, I think, the actors to be
yeah.
to not overcomplicate and to make an
Yeah.
actual chorus that's like simple.
Unless you're doing improvised Gilbert and Sullivan,
Yeah.
you're doing all patter songs. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Because the other thing with some of these games is you've described for folks like there's a group involved too. The
Mhm.
scene work is just one-on-one, but if there's people behind you,
oh
you
yeah,
have to remember your chorus. Like
yes,
they have to remember that next
Yeah,
time it
so-
comes around.
yeah. So when you're doing like a long form, so okay, forget musical improv for 1 second. When you're doing a long form with just like an improv group, you usually have 2 people in a scene, and then you have what are called sidelines, or
Yeah.
sometimes a backline. And they're the other improvisers that will come out and edit your scene and take over and do a new scene or do a bunch of different kinds of things. And the one thing they can do is adding to your scene from the sidelines or backline by like making sound effects or doing all sorts of like supportive things to make the scene funnier, I don't know, etc.
In music, doing the can.
Yeah, okay, so in musical improv, when you have your sidelines or backline, they become your background singers or backup singers or like, yeah, dancers, which is
So fun.
so fun. You don't want to distract from like the main 2 players, but whatever you can do to like add it. So usually when the chorus is established, then you'll have the rest of the ensemble be like singing that when the chorus comes around again for like support and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a group mind has to work for that too. And
Right.
listening, yeah.
Right. So when you're making up your chorus, you
Mhm.
have to think not just like, can I remember this next time I have to sing it?
Right.
But can they remember it
Yeah.
when they're backing me up? Yeah.
Yeah, and what's
Yeah.
interesting about choruses is like they're usually like the hook of the song or like the main theme of a song, and usually that will also help you remember what it is when it comes back. That's why
Yeah.
I remember like when I'm thinking of pop songs, I only remember the chorus. I don't really remember verses
Yes.
because it's like generally what the song is about, and they're pretty simple and stuff to remember. So yeah, it's kind of hard to simplify it sometimes.
It's hard to simplify. I think
Yeah.
like again, we've been working on that the last several practices, just trying to get a chorus. Like that's the hardest part. Like the verses, people don't seem to have, they just go.
Yeah.
They do their thing and they sing.
Yeah.
And then the chorus, like I'll play a chorus and they'll just keep singing their thing. It's like,
Right.
but you have to sing this back later.
Right. And that is something that you could practice, not you, but the royal you can practice with musical improv is like practicing singing a verse into a chorus.
Yeah.
And for people who are like musically trained, a verse is usually 8 bars or 16 bars. And a chorus is like 4 bars. And usually you repeat the chorus. So like usually the structure is like 4 bars and then you repeat another 4 bars. And the verses are longer. And then you also have a bridge. I don't know if we've even practiced bridges yet.
No. In musical, so far in the improv, because I've done the same thing with the overcomplicating. I have had to really pare down because I know all these chords, and I'm like, okay, time to pull out the music theory. No, we have to keep it super simple because you, as a singer, are making up all of the words. All like you're doing all of this other stuff. You're acting on the spot, trying to think of rhymes, trying to think of all these things, like eventually like also coming up with super complex
Yeah, you can throw
Like, but,
flat
like,
9 at me. I wouldn't
yeah.
mind.
But generally, just like 2 chords in the verse, and then I will change keys for the chorus, and I'll do 2 chords there and then
Yeah.
back, and that is it.
Yeah, and that's great. I think like for improvisers, it's nice to have that differentiating music of
Yeah.
like the verses versus the chorus, because sometimes it can be hard to know when do I start singing the chorus or when
Right.
do I start singing the verse if it's all like the same 4 chords over and
Yeah.
over. Although people do it, people do that in a lot of pop music. So
Right, yeah. I mean, pop music, people make fun of it for being simple, but it's
Mhm.
also accessible.
It's so accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the 4 chord song. Like
The
it's
4 chords,
it's
I
just
know.
a bunch of different songs with the same 4
If
chords.
you haven't seen that, look it up.
Shout
Axis of
out.
Awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to Access of Awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
bringing it back to 2010 or
Everything.
something. I don't know when
Yeah.
they did that.
And they keep updating it.
Oh,
'Cause-
did they really?
Yeah. Tanya and I were going to do it as at an open mic, and then
Oh my
but we kept learning different versions, and we're like, because you can literally put any song in there, so we're like, which songs are we gonna do? Like,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What if you like could figure out like some crazy like opera song that would fit in there, but not the whole thing. I mean, now I got to think about it.
it's probably in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But I also don't want like because I do on occasion play those same 4 chords.
Mhm.
But I also don't want every single song to sound the same.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to like how do I play with rhythm? How do I play with all of the other elements of genre so that you're not bored and you're not, God, I just sang this song, now I got to, while also keeping it super simple.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a musical improv podcast, and they have a
Cool.
little band, so it's like piano. They used to just have piano,
Yeah.
and then they had piano, guitar, and now I think they worked their way up to piano, guitar, bass, and drums. And so that gives them a lot of variety. But
Yeah.
I think they have kind of probably the band has their go-tos of like kinds of music they
must.
play.
I would be so curious
Hmm
to hear how they do that. Because in one show and then also one rehearsal, someone came and played in the show bass.
hmm
And just on the singing bartender because
hmm
it's 12-bar blues.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can play bass.
Right.
And I'm like, cool, awesome. That sounds great to have like a bass with blues. Yeah, totally. But even then, like, because people are making it up, and this is something where I'm sure we're all getting better at, like, if someone goes long, I just riff with them. I'm not gonna like force them to, like you gotta. But then the other person, like, that's not 12 bars anymore. So when you're playing with someone else,
Oh yeah.
and then and that's a structured song. So how in the heck? I just gotta learn.
Yeah.
Would they do that with other like?
Yeah, I mean, you just keep going, even if somebody takes like longer to do their song. I think it's nice to have the structure. It's nice for everyone to like do it, the structure. But if something happens in like a show, you just keep going. I mean, I'm sure you learned that like, at least when I was like doing piano lessons, like just regular piano lessons, I was taught to, if I make a mistake, to just keep going.
Yeah.
No one's going to notice.
But when you're with a whole band,
Oh,
and
yeah,
again,
the
the
band.
12-bar blues, that makes sense. But if you're like doing scene work, how would a drummer, I guess, you could get, like, how the heck would that work?
I mean,
have a full band on the same page as far as chord, like when you're changing what chords, like what genre, like just jump into it.
It's jamming for sure. I did a little bit of that. It's like kind of like jamming. I did a little bit of that with when I was playing in like jazz combos and stuff.
Yeah.
And we would just like have jam sessions, which kind of turned into some like light free jazz.
Right.
And I wasn't playing an instrument where I would have to play chords. I was playing saxophone, so it was like a melody instrument. But I would have to find out what key they were playing in or like what chords they were playing. And I guess you just like have to have a good ear and like
be really plugged in to your bandmates and
totally. You just kind of like listen to each other, and I think the longer you play together, the better it is, or like the more experience you have with like jamming and that kind of stuff, the easier it is to do. You just keep going, I guess.
Let's talk real quick about, so you are leading, like I said, you took the class and now you're leading this class over the summer. Can you describe what this class is for and
Yeah.
kind of who it's for?
So this is the musical improv class, and it's I guess anyone interested in musical improv.
Yeah.
It helps if you have done an improv class before. It's kind of a prerequisite to do musical improv. Just get an understanding of improv, what it's about, maybe some games, and learning some of the basics of it. Because when you come to musical improv, um, we dedicate a lot of our time to the skills of like rhyming, song structure, playing the musical games,
Mhm.
and we don't have as much time to dedicate to like scene work, which is
Mhm.
what you really get into with a regular improv class. Is like, how do you have two people with nothing else and they just make up like an acting scene on the spot? Which in the musical games, it's less about the scene work, but it's still important to like be able to do that or know how to do it. Getting comfortable with rhyming.
Yes.
Rhyming is a skill. It's like a muscle.
Yes.
Also, I guess I didn't say this, but the musical improv class, I actually don't really teach like people vocal technique.
Right.
You don't have to really be like a trained singer to do it.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to be whatever like good at singing is. Cause I don't like believe that, I don't know, like I said, like I didn't think I was a good singer, and then I found out like anybody can sing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my philosophy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of confidence that goes into it, and anyway, blah blah blah. So the musical improv class, you don't have to be a good singer.
Yep.
You just kind of have to have a willingness to kind of step outside of a comfort zone maybe, and just learn to rhyme and make up songs on the spot, and be silly and have fun. And it probably helps to have some musical knowledge, but you don't need to.
Yeah.
What else do I have to say about it? We're still developing the curriculum, so
No,
I guess like
love
this is
I
all
love this. It's so exciting because
me
like,
writing curriculum.
all of that is something I believe very strongly in anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of what I'm trying to do with this project is bust people's minds open to like, regardless of what you, how you feel about yourself and your abilities, there is a place for you in music somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So music is for everyone, for
Yes,
sure. I think,
yes.
yeah.
And I think that's why I have come to really love doing this musical
Mhm.
improv, is because it's so open and welcoming. And
Mhm.
like, Sabrina said it so well when she introduced, and you might have to help me out, like
Mhm.
at our first show ever.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what's people's greatest fear?
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes public speaking.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Narrowing down that, like what's most terrifying about public speaking? Forgetting your lines or not having lines.
Mhm.
And then what's people's other biggest fear? Singing.
Yes.
What's your biggest fear singing? Like forgetting your lines,
Yeah.
not having your lines. So it's like,
Yeah.
there's so much bravery and overcoming of
Mhm.
very natural fears that everybody has
Mm-hmm.
to do this. Like it's
Yeah.
so intense. Like 0.1% of people, like, like as far as being able to overcome things that are so scary is like to get up and sing and not have lines
Right.
in front of an audience.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah. Well, I get stressed out though when I like have to sing a song and there's like a high note at the end. That stresses me out. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just kidding.
That's true.
But yeah, no, it is just scary. And but it doesn't mean like, anybody can do it too at
Yeah,
the same
it's
time, which
really
is really
true.
cool. And
Yeah.
it's for everybody, and it should be enjoyed by everyone. Music is and should be for everybody and enjoyed by everyone, because it's like a universal thing for sure. Yeah.
Spot on. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And I ask all of my guests this at the end. So do you know what Zeitgeist means? This is Zeitgeist Radio.
Yeah. I mean, well, I just said yes without.
You're like, yeah, I mean, no
I
idea.
do know what it means. All I know about the Zeitgeist is kind of like a collection of knowledge
Yeah.
that humans all experience. That's kind of what I know. a
Yeah.
little
So
bit.
it's kind of like the feeling of the times, the spirit of the times. Zeit means time,
Mhm.
and Geist is like poltergeist,
Mhm.
ghost, time ghost is technically the literal translation. But basically, it's like the feeling of what it's like And I was introduced to this in my music history classes, the zeitgeist of any particular era. And music is so like influential in shaping that and what it feels like. And you look back even just across the decades, like we were talking about Beastie rap, like the zeitgeist of that era, like when you hear Beastie Boys, you're just immediately taken back to like what it was like and like you know, Pogs and you know, all the other things in the 90s.
Oh my God.
So I have what I call a zeitgeist moment, which is you are going about your day, you are doing something relating to music, and all of a sudden you just feel that connectedness. And this can be in anything. So what was either a recent or a very memorable zeitgeist moment for you when something you interacted with music in some way and it just clicked and you kind of came alive and felt just like, you know, that moment where you're just like, what was a zeitgeist moment for you?
Okay, let me see. There's probably been a few.
Yeah.
First of all, I like Disneyland.
Yes.
And I have like a core memory of going to Disneyland. First of all, I go to Disneyland as an adult. So there's that. But I have a core memory of going as a child and walking in through the first gates you go in, or like before you even get to the park, and they were like blasting this is weird because it's not a Disney song, but they were blasting Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys.
Wow, that's not what I expected you to say. Okay.
This is so weird, but it was like such a core memory for me. And it was because they have California Adventure there. California Adventure Beach Boys. And I just like remember, and maybe it was an instrumental version or something, but I just remember like the feeling of walking into Disneyland and being like really happy and hearing the Beach Boys into the California Adventure Park, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, it was funny because I thought you were going to say a Disney song, and I was like, they are unique because their zeitgeist is like timelessness or timelessness, right? Timeless classics. What does that mean? It means you can't, I mean, you sort of can attach a movie to when it came out, but most of them they try to design them so there is no zeitgeist other than Disney. Disney's like their own.
Disney music is its own thing for sure.
But then you said Beach Boys, and I was like,
I know,
that's
isn't that weird?
Specific. Yeah.
I mean, but all of it. They would also play the Indiana Jones theme as you walk into the park, and then Disney does like this thing where they do really control the volume and what music is played throughout the parks. They have speakers everywhere. You can't see them.
Yes.
But it's always playing. So if you're walking down like Main Street in Disneyland, like the music is so specific to whatever that area is, which is like 1900s, turn of the century, like the South where Walt Disney grew up. Or if you're in like the Futureland, like tomorrow. Wow, I'm a fake Disney fan. If you're in Tomorrowland, it will play like the spacey, futuristic kinds of stuff, retro futurism kind of music and things like that. So it is a fun place to go and just like experience all of it.
Yeah. What is your favorite moment that you've ever had doing musical theater?
That's a good question.
Musical improv.
I actually do remember like more recently having kind of a zeitgeist moment, but also like a favorite musical improv moment where it did feel like I wasn't even there.
Yeah,
that makes
that's
sense.
The best.
I know.
Yes.
And I've had those moments doing improv and doing music and stuff before. That's like I think that's the reason I keep coming back to performance.
Yeah.
But when I was doing like musical improv, I don't even remember what I was singing about, but I just went into the flow state. I can't remember. I'd like to tell you more.
No, that's
all
great.
I remember that I was doing a musical improv show. I forgot what I was singing about. And I was really just into it. I was kind of using more of my not classical a little bit more of my classical singing voice because you like vibrato and things, whatever. But I was just in like full flow state and playing to like the emotional stakes of whatever the scene was.
Yeah.
And fully just in it.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. Those times are super fun for me. Just to like fully be present in the moment with like the music and everything that's happening around me.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
That's spot on. Yeah, I think mine. I remember the penguin one just because that was the first time that ever happened to me in improv. Was when I was just like, I found something and it worked.
Yeah.
And then when you're playing and like the performers respond and they get into the flow state. That feels amazing to me because
it's super awesome. It's a real magical thing.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's super cool. I love doing that. I want to do more of that when I'm like coaching or teaching or something. I am like usually watching and I don't get to do it as much. So I guess when I go to Disneyland and I listen to the music there, it's cool or something. No, no, that's how I like cope with everything. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to continue working with you on this crazy
Yay.
journey that we've both stumbled into. And
Me too.
thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you. Woohoo.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Zeitgeist Radio. To uplevel your musical journey and become a music student for life, join the Zeitgeist Academy by signing up for my bi-weekly newsletter. You'll get exclusive content, blog posts, and behind-the-scenes insights. I love putting it together, and you'll love reading it. Head over to zeitgeistacademy.com/radio. That's ZEITGEIST academy.com/radio. Music for this episode was created by Ian Boswell. Please hit that subscribe button and tell all your friends you found a cool new podcast. See you next time.